Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here and I'm glad to be filming a new YouTube video. It's been a while since I've made a new video, and this particular video I planned to make weeks ago and then things just kind of changed. So a while back I asked on my Instagram if anyone had any questions about my journey and my experience of living on a boat, because at the time the 6-month mark of living on the boat was coming up. So I thought it would be fun to make a Q&A video of my experience and just answer any questions that people have about living on a boat and what it might be like. Around that time, our plans changed and we started to head back north from the Caribbean. We knew that our journey on the boat was going to soon be coming to an end. All in all, I spent 7 months living on a 44-foot Antares catamaran, and I'm so grateful for the experience. I did receive a lot of questions, so thanks to everyone who did submit a question on my Instagram. So as you can see, I'm no longer in the tropics or the subtropics. I am now in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm sitting in front of this absolutely beautiful, magical maple tree. This is a big leaf maple here in the Pacific Northwest. It is just absolutely massive and it's just so special. I'm really glad to have found this little spot and be able to sit here and enjoy my time with this tree. So like I said, I did receive a lot of questions and I'm gonna try and answer as many of them as I can in this video without making it too terribly long. So somebody asked, do you guys have plans for how long you want to live on the boat and where to next? So obviously I'm no longer on the boat. Originally, our plans were to live on the boat through the sailing season. So throughout the world, the sailing season is different depending on the climate. But generally for the US, the sailing season is the winter. So just after hurricane season, which ends in about November, like the end of October, beginning of November, through April-ish, April or May. So we did plan to live on the boat just for that time. That did end up being how long we stayed on the boat. We could have stayed a little bit longer, but with everything happening in the world, we started to head back a little sooner than we'd originally planned. Somebody asked, does the water ever get really rough? And yeah, the water definitely gets rough. So what all sailors do is look at weather prediction models, and a lot of the models you can see what the weather is going to be doing for around 7 days ahead. So we use multiple weather prediction models, and what you look for the most is the wind. The wind is going to produce the roughest seas that you're going to experience, and so we would plan for when it was going to be really windy and what direction the wind was going to come from, and if possible we would sail to an area that was protected from that direction of wind. So if we were going to be experiencing northerly winds, we would tuck into a bay on the south side of an island or somewhere that it's kind of protected from that direction. If we were out on a passage, then yeah, I mean the water can definitely get rough, and again, you will use weather prediction models to determine when you are going to sail on a passage. Also, you do want to sail when it's windy because that's how you sail, is with the wind. So it kind of depends. You also deal with swell. There are different factors of which can cause rough seas, but that's part of sailing. Even though it could be kind of scary and maybe not make you feel very good sometimes, I'm still really grateful that I was able to experience it, and it was kind of fun. So that leads me to the next couple of questions, which were pretty similar. Were you nauseous or seasick at first, and do you ever feel seasick? So at first, no, I wasn't seasick. When we first boarded the boat and began living on it, we had a couple of months where we were in the Chesapeake Bay, and we were often in places that were pretty protected, and we stayed at a couple of marinas, and we had a lot of projects that we were working on during those first weeks and the first month primarily, and so we would do a lot of the work at a marina. So the first month in general was like pretty chill. we did sail a lot. We did a lot of day sails. We didn't do any overnight sails in the Chesapeake Bay. So there were definitely some days where it was pretty windy and there was I'm using a different camera for filming and I'm not quite sure how it's working, so if I move around, that's why. But yeah, that was the worst I had felt. Later on in the journey, I did feel seasick a handful of times, mostly on passages. So there was one passage where the waves were so big. They might have been like 3-meter waves for the first 2 days, and it was just constant, and I kind of just felt like blah, you know what I mean? Like I just didn't feel very good. I didn't feel like I had to vomit or necessarily feel nauseous. I just didn't feel super good in my body. And so once that calmed down, once the waves calmed down and evened out on the 3rd day, I felt a lot better. The next question is, what happens to all of the waste from your toilet? That's a really good question, and there's basically 2 different ways that this will work on a boat. So some boats don't have a holding tank, and when you flush the toilet, it just goes straight into the ocean or straight into the water, whatever body of water the boat is on. And then in other boats, they have a holding tank, so when you flush the toilet, everything in the toilet goes down into a holding tank that holds all the waste until you are able to empty it. And in the way that it's emptied, it can either be emptied from the deck, meaning that you can use a pump out station at a marina where they'll basically bring a very large like vacuum, and you plug it into the opening of the holding tank on the deck, and it will suck out all of the waste and empty the tank that way. Or you can empty it from below the water line. And so some boats have a macerator attached to the holding tank, so when it releases the waste from the holding tank into the water, it goes through a macerator first, and that just means that it's like a blender. And then on some boats, they don't have a macerator, and it just opens up, like there's a valve that you open on the holding tank, and it just empties everything from the holding tank into the water. So on our boat, we actually had 2 heads. So one head had the macerator and one head did not. And the law is that when you empty your holding tanks into the water, you need to be at least 3 miles offshore from any land in any direction. So if you are out at sea, like on a passage, there are no restrictions. You can empty the holding tanks out there at any time, and that's basically the only solution. And then if you are sailing like the Virgin Islands, for example, you would need to go 3 miles away from land, any of that. So there's a lot of islands down there and they're all very close together, so you need to go far enough away from every piece of land near you that you can illegally dump the holding tanks. And there's really good reasons for this. If a lot of people, a lot of cruisers and boaters are emptying their holding tanks close to coral reefs, the coral reefs tend to not do as well long term, and they have found this in the Virgin Islands. It's just generally not that good to empty your holding tanks close to land or close to anywhere where people are going to be in the water or for the wildlife in the area. So if there are marinas near you that do pump outs, it's best to just do that, because at the pump out station, what they suck out of your holding tank, generally the pump out station is just connected to the sewage system in whatever town you're in or near, so it just goes into the normal sewage. There's a lot of problems with human waste that go along with boating and living on a boat, and I have a lot of thoughts and concerns about it myself, but for now I'll just leave it at that. Next question is, did I see dolphins? Yes, I did see dolphins. I didn't see as many dolphins as I thought I would, but I did see dolphins. The first time we saw a big pod of dolphins swimming on the bow was when we were leaving North Carolina and sailing to South Carolina. And after we got a little ways, like maybe 5 miles offshore of North Carolina, we had our first pod of dolphins swim on the bow, and that was really fun and exciting to see. And then we had another even larger pod of dolphins swimming on the bow when we were going to the Exumas. And the coolest experience that I witnessed seeing dolphins was when we were at a marina in Spanish Wells in the Bahamas on just off the island of Eleuthera. The water was just crystal clear, and out of nowhere a bottlenose dolphin swam over and swam underneath the boat and was just like swimming so fast in circles and patterns and jumping out of the water. And everyone in the area just stopped and was watching, like, what is going on? This dolphin is so like excited and worked up. And then we noticed that it was chasing a really large fish. And so we watched it for a few minutes, and finally it swam underneath the boat, caught the fish in its mouth, and then jumped out of the water with the fish in its mouth and swam away. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in person. It was amazing. I did see whales only one time. I was kind of surprised. Living on the boat for 7 months, I thought I was going to see more whales, and I looked a lot, but I only saw whales one time. They looked the most like bride's whales from the book that I had to reference, but I'm not totally sure, and I believe it was a mother and her calf. So that was really cool to see. They came up right next to the boat when I was on my watch one day during the day, and at first I wasn't sure what they were, and they came up, and so I was watching, and they swam back behind the boat, a little ways behind the boat, maybe 150 yards, and they came up again, and then as we were continuing on, they came up again, but they were further away. So they came up 3 times when I was watching them, and that was very magical. The next question was, do you follow a course or take travels day by day? And that kind of depended. We did follow a general course, but also one of the biggest rules that we lived by on the boat was to not have a plan, because you kind of just have to follow the weather. And so we would plan to explore the Virgin Islands, explore the US Virgin Islands for a while, or explore the British Virgin Islands for a while, or the island of Eleuthera. And we would just kind of see what the weather was going to be like and see what we felt like doing. So we would plan like a couple of days in advance generally, but our plans changed all the time, so we didn't really stick to any specific plan. Somebody asked, do you have enough alone time? And honestly, I did not have enough alone time. If you ever live on a boat, it's just going to depend on your personality and your personal needs. If I would have been tied into a 9-to-5 job or something like that, I do think it would have been harder to say yes to this opportunity to pick up and leave and move far away and onto a boat. But because I have my own online business and I can decide when and where I want to work and how I want to do that, it gave me the freedom to very quickly and very easily say, yes, I want to do this. So with that, I was able to also work on the boat, and I was able to work whenever I had internet access. on the boat, and that felt really good for me as well. So whenever we were somewhere where we had good internet, it felt really good for me to just get on my computer and start working and spend a couple hours here and there working on my business. So 2 different people asked basically the same question, which is, what is the best part of boat living, or what's my favorite part of living on a boat? My favorite part about living on the boat was being warm. And I know that sounds really simple, but feeling warm and being in the sun feels so right and so natural for me. And to not feel cold is just so big. It just means so much to me to just be able to be warm and be in the sun as much as possible. That's just where I feel most myself. I also really loved being able to move around and travel and see so many different places and plants and birds and animals and people that I wouldn't have been able to experience in this way if I hadn't have gone on this journey. I also really appreciated the fact that living on a boat and sailing is such a slow practice, and something that I practice a lot in my own life is slow living and slowing down and being present and noticing all of the little things around me. And I was really able to do that living on the boat and sailing. It's such a different way to travel. Yeah, and seeing everything from the water, it just felt really special and like an experience that I needed in my life, but I had no idea that I needed it. And the last question I'll answer is, what did you learn about yourself? Some of the things I learned about myself are personal, and I'll keep those to myself. I was reminded of my adaptability, and I think that is something I had kind of forgotten or lost. I really needed and wanted and desired so much a really big, drastic change in my life, and I kept telling myself, I'm gonna have a really drastic change, and that is going to be so helpful for me. I just wanted it to be big and so different and radical. I wanted a radical change, and I didn't ever think that it would be living on a boat. I had definitely thought about sailing in the future. I was definitely becoming more interested in being on the water and being on a boat, and I thought, oh, I'd love to learn how to sail one day. That'd be really fun, you know? But I never thought that I would have the opportunity to live on a sailboat. Like, that just wasn't even something that I thought about. And that big radical change came, and it helped me in a lot of ways. I was able to do that with someone very close to me, and I was able to travel and be warm, and it just felt needed. The trip, the journey, the experience felt so needed. And although living on a boat and my experience of living on the boat wasn't all amazing and super positive and great, there were certainly things that I struggled with. I'm so grateful that I was able to do this, and it showed me a lot of things that I think I needed a light shone on some of these things in my life so that it could help me grow and become a better person. So I have definitely learned a lot of things about myself that maybe some of them I knew before, and maybe some of them I didn't, and I didn't realize, but now I do, and I'm always hoping to grow more and wanting to grow and become a better person. So yeah, I'm very grateful for this experience, and I want to thank you guys for watching my videos. I know my channel is still pretty new, and I do want to continue filming and putting videos up here to share and to share parts of my life and help inspire and add value to your life as well. So please leave a comment below and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm so happy to have had this opportunity and been able to make a video about how it felt for me. And thank you for everyone that submitted a question for this video. I know it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad that I was able to finally film it and share it with you guys. So I hope you all have a really beautiful day, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye.